Hello, how is everybody? I hope you're all well. Yes, hottest day of the year. I hope you've managed not to just deteriorate into a melting blob. I've got my curtains shut to prevent any such eventuality in the next 10 minutes because I really don't want that to happen live on Facebook. So how are we all doing? How is your health? How are you feeling? How are you really feeling? Are you struggling with this heat? We're having a massive heat wave in the UK. For those who aren't in the UK. And being Brits, it's all we're talking about. Being Brits, we're whinging about it because it's way too hot. But come Saturday, it's going to be raining again, so we'll be whinging about the rain come Saturday. Yes, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all thriving and having wonderful weeks. Today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the retrograde menstruation. I can't even speak today. Theory. Now, so for those of you who don't know, one of the theories that was prevalent many years ago in the endometriosis world was a theory of retrograde menstruation, which basically meant that doctors and endo specialists believed that one of the reasons for endometriosis was retrograde menstruation, which is basically, in essence, it's the period that should come out going back in. So basically you're menstruating backwards. Now kind of this has been a little bit debunked, can't be a little bit debunked. This has been debunked in recent times. So this theory, this belief on the cause of endometriosis isn't widespread anymore. In fact, most clinics, most specialists will actually actively say that this isn't believed to be the cause or one of the causes of endometriosis. However, those of you, and I completely agree, I get that. However, those of you who have joined my webinars before, who have worked with me in the past, will know that there's something about it that rings a little bit true when we look at endometriosis in terms of Eastern medicine. We're about to be joined by a rather hot dog who's in search of some shade. She's left the cold water tea towel that I put out for her, and she's decided this room's much better. So apologies if she barks. I thought I'd shut the door, to be honest, but she's obviously escaped. So where was I? Yes. So those of you who've followed my work for a bit, whether you've worked with me, whether you've joined my webinars, will know that I am very much an advocate of endometriosis theories from an Eastern medicine perspective. Now, Eastern medicine tells us that disease or dis-ease, illness, health conditions come from blockages. It comes from stagnation, and I'll do another video on the whole thing of stagnation at some point. But they tell us that in order to be well, in order for our bodies to function properly, then we need clear channels for the blood, for the energy, for water to flow through our bodies uninhibited. And when we get blockages, that's when problems apply, or that's when problems start. So the retrograde menstruation theory, whilst I get that that isn't what causes endometriosis, a lot of the people I work with, a lot of the people I've helped, do actually struggle with blockages, again from an Eastern medicine perspective. So again, in my webinars, you'll have heard me talking about, I use an analogy of the Nile. If you think about the Nile, fast flowing river, everything's flowing beautifully, all the subsidiaries are flowing beautifully, everything around the Nile is plush, it's abundant, it's working well. You get abundance. You get healthy grass, you get healthy trees, you get healthy animals, because everything is nurtured. Everything has the sustenance that it needs to survive and thrive. So that's what happens in our bodies. When the chi, which again I can explain that in another video, but when the chi flows freely through us, when our blood is flowing freely through us, then all of our veins, all of our subsidiaries, so our soft tissue, our muscles, all of our body is being nourished, it's being nurtured, and it's being fed everything it needs to have to grow in abundance, to work as it should, and to flourish. When we start getting blockages, that's when we get the stagnation, that's when we start to get problems. Endometriosis is classic stagnation. all things like just irkiness, and again I'll go into more detail elsewhere, but irkiness, cysts, toxic buildup. That's what happens when we start to get blockages. Now, blockages in Eastern medicine come from physical damage or emotional damage. Now, emotional because emotional becomes physical over time. So what we're talking about is, so if you take, and again I use this a lot, this example, if you take your shoulders as an example, you can be under immense emotional stress. So you could be feeling stressed a lot of the time. That stress will manifest in its shoulders. That's a physical manifestation of an emotional problem. Or you can be in a car crash that gives you a bad neck that hurts your shoulders, or you can have a tennis accident, a badminton accident, netball, whatever you're playing, and you can have a physical injury as well. Now, what happens there when your muscles are damaged, so either through physical or emotional injury, the muscle seizes up. Now, normally, if everything's flowing properly, if your body's able to repair itself normally, that muscle will take a few days. The muscles around it will tend to protect it. It will repair itself, the cells will regenerate, and the muscle will go back to normal, and everything will be fine. If it's prolonged, so if that goes on for a long period of time, that muscle will learn that tightness is its normal. Those muscles will tighten again around it, and it just won't repair, or it'll take a lot longer to repair. That tight muscle causes a blockage. When that muscle is tight, chi, energy, blood, all the stuff that we need to flow through us, to circulate freely through us, gets stuck. So if you can imagine that in our abdomen, so if you have a physical trauma to your lower back or to your abdomen, so for example, childbirth, we hear a lot of women who have never struggled with endometriosis who suddenly have endometriosis appear after childbirth. So childbirth, I say traumatic childbirth full stop is a trauma to the body. So if you have childbirth and then you have endometriosis afterwards, it could well be that you have a slight trauma to your abdomen when you've given birth, or if you have, like I say, a injury to your lower back, to your hip, a fall, anything like that, that can cause the physical tightening of the muscle. Also, we have so many muscles down in our abdominal area, that correlate to massive emotion. Fear, worry, anxiety, they are all held in really, really big muscles that impact on our abdomen. So if we're struggling with fear, if we're struggling with anxiety over a prolonged period of time, once again, that manifests physically in muscle tightness. If you're getting muscle tightness in your abdomen, and your abdomen is scrunched up a lot of the time, then when it comes to the flow of our menstrual cycle, which we need to flow beautifully, we need to flow really well, everything about our cycle, a whole menstrual cycle, not just about the actual menstruation part of it, but everything about our cycle requires a beautiful free flow. I don't know if it's the heat, but I can't barely speak today. A beautiful, magical, free flow of the energy of the blood, of everything, of water, everything within that abdominal cavity needs to move freely. As soon as we start to get blockages, that's when we start to get the stagnation. That's when we start to get problems of inflammation. That's when we start to get problems with pain. That's where we start to get problems with growths, bruising, all that kind of stuff that we associate with endometriosis. So whilst retrograde menstruation might not be a thing, whilst we might not bleed backwards, Eastern medicine gives us an insight into why we might not quite be expelling all of the menstrual blood, or not just that, but all of the cycle might not be flowing properly, which is why things are getting stuck. And the more stuck they get, the more problem you cause. Think again back to the Nile, the subsidiary, and again, apologies if you've done my webinars because you'll have heard this before, but think back to the analogy of the Nile and your abdominal cavity being a subsidiary of the Nile. The longer one of those rivers is blocked, the worse the problem gets, the worse the toxic buildup, the worse the stagnation, the worse the drought, because the land isn't getting the nourishment it needs, because the river isn't flowing. So if you bring that analogy back to your body, the more stagnation, the more endometriosis you get in your body, the longer it goes on for, the longer it's left unattended, the worse potentially that problem can get. So retrograde menstruation. That might not be a thing, you might not bleed backwards, but like I say, Eastern medicine can give us a bit of concept around why any damage or any blockages, any prevention of a free-flowing menstrual cycle can lead to endometriosis. So what to do about it? Well, it's not necessarily the case that I'm right. This is my theory. This is what I work with on my clients. This is my point of view on endometriosis. This is what I believe is a major contributing factor to endometriosis. So what can you do? It depends on what's causing your blockages, is the not very helpful answer, which is why whenever I start my coaching programs, my treatment programs, I always ask my clients to track what's going on with their bodies, because without that tracking and without knowing, you'll have heard me talk about root causes, triggers and symptoms. Without knowing what's a symptom, without knowing what's a cause, without knowing what's a trigger, it's really, really hard to identify, because 9 times out of 10, most people have a mix of different things that's causing the blockages. So even if you've had a really traumatic physical injury to your abdomen, that might not be the only root cause. You might also have years of anxiety behind you. You might have had a traumatic experience that's left an massive emotional impact. You might have a combination of different things. There's also ancestral stuff, which I talk about in another video, but there's also ancestral stuff that goes on about the genetics we inherit and the DNA changes in terms of epigenetics and things like that we inherit. So it's really, really important to understand your endometriosis, to understand what's your cause, what's your trigger, what's your symptom. And then we can start to look at the blockages, because the cause, the symptom, the trigger, that's actually talking about what's causing the blockages that's causing the endometriosis. Endometriosis in my world is caused by blockages. And that's not just me, that's Chinese medicine, Indian medicine. That's accepted in terms of their practices. So we look at what's causing those blockages. We look at really, really uncovering the detail of the cause. So I hope that helps. Let me know your theories on retrograde menstruation. Let me know if it's something that you've heard about before. Let me know if it's something that people that you've talked to have talked to you about it. So your specialists, your doctors, let me know if they're still talking about that, or let me know if the people that you're surrounded by just don't buy into that anymore. Let me know your thoughts. Have a lovely Thursday. Enjoy the sunshine while it's here. Try not to melt. Keep hydrated. I can't tell you how important it is, especially when you've got endometriosis, to keep hydrated. Dehydrated muscles cause blockages because they tighten up. And what we need is a free flow of water through the system, through the abdomen. So keep hydrated, filtered water if possible. You know my theories on tap water. So drink loads, drink about 3 times more than you normally drink in this weather. Don't class, again, people without endometriosis class things like tea, coffee, fizzy drinks, soft drinks. In my world, we just count water. We just count filtered water if possible. So keep hydrated. Stay safe, and I shall see you next Thursday. Take care, guys.